You ever catch yourself thinking about thinking? Like right now, you're listening to these words, and simultaneously, there's this part of you watching yourself listen. You're aware that you're aware. You're observing yourself observing. Here's the strange part. Who's doing the watching? Who caught who? Because if you are watching yourself, then there are two of you. But which one is the real one, the watcher or the watched? Stay with me here, because for the next 17 minutes, I'm going to show you something that could completely change how you experience being alive. And here's the thing, the you who started listening to this, that person won't make it to the end, not because something bad happens, but because you're about to realize something that makes the whole idea of you fall apart. And here's the surprising part, that's not a problem, that's freedom. Let's start with something simple. Close your eyes for a second. Seriously, do it. Now where are you? And I don't mean in your room or at your desk. I mean, where is the actual you? Are you behind your eyes? In your head somewhere? Maybe in your chest, where it feels like emotions happen? Point to yourself right now. Here's what's wild. Many of you can't. You can point to your body, sure. But are you your body? Because if I asked you, do you have a body or are you a body? Those feel like different questions, right? You have a body the same way you have a car. It's yours, but it's not you. Okay, so maybe you're not your body. Maybe you're your mind, your thoughts. But here's where it gets interesting. Right now, think of a random word, any word. Now here's the question that breaks everything. Who chose that word? You'll say, I did, but watch what actually happened. The word just appeared. It arose in consciousness. You didn't construct it letter by letter. You didn't consciously scan through your vocabulary. It just showed up, and then you claimed it as yours. Here's the thing no one tells you. You've been doing this your entire life. Thoughts appear, and you say, I thought that. Emotions arise, and you say, I feel that. Sensations happen, and you say, I experience that. But where's the I that's separate from the thinking, feeling, and experiencing? Let's go deeper. Long before neuroscience had brain scans, people were asking the same question. And 2,500 years ago, Buddhist philosophy broke it down in a way that's shockingly close to what modern science is now uncovering. They called them the 5 skandhas, not fixed parts of a self, but 5 ongoing processes. Together they flow so rapidly that they produce the impression of a single, continuous you. First, there's form, your physical body. But here's what no one teaches you. Form isn't just your body. It's the edge where inside supposedly meets outside. Except at the molecular level, that boundary doesn't exist. Atoms from the air become atoms in your lungs, become atoms in your blood. Where exactly does you end and not you begin? Second, there's sensation. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Raw data hitting your nervous system. And this is where it becomes real. Sensations happen without anyone deciding to feel them. Pain doesn't ask permission. Pleasure doesn't wait for approval. They just arise. Third, perception. This is the automatic labeling system. You see a shape and immediately, before you consciously think anything, your brain goes tree or person or car. It's so fast you don't even notice it's happening. But that voice naming things, that's not you. That's pattern recognition software running on autopilot. Fourth, mental formations. These are the subtle patterns of the mind, the currents of intention, impulse, and conditioning that shape how experience unfolds. They arise automatically, shaping perception, coloring sensations, and driving action before any conscious choice appears. They're not something you author or control. They're the silent architecture of your inner world, operating on its own. And fifth, consciousness, the bare awareness, the knowing. And this is where it gets really unusual, because this is the one that feels like you, right? The witness, the observer, the one who's aware of everything else. But here's the mind-opening part. That witness, it's also empty. It's also a process, not a thing. And I'm going to prove it to you. Think about yourself at age 7. Are you that person? You'll probably say, yes, but I've changed. Notice that but. That little word is doing all the heavy lifting. Because if you've changed, then you're literally not the same person. Not metaphorically, literally. Over the years, many of the cells in your body are replaced. Your tissues renew, your views shift, your personality evolves. Your memories of being 7, those aren't recordings. They're reconstructions, happening now, in this moment, in a brain that didn't exist when you were 7. So what makes you think you're continuous with that 7-year-old? Memory. But memory is just current brain activity about the past. It's not a bridge to who you were. It's a story about who you were, being told by someone who never met them. You're not continuous with your past self. You're a fresh illusion every single moment, convinced you have a history. And here's where it gets even more startling. You're not even continuous with the person who started this sentence. Each moment generates a new illusion of selfhood. The brain creates a sense of me on the fly, constantly, and memory stitches these separate moments together into the fiction of a continuous self. You know what this is like? It's like a movie, 24 frames per second, each one slightly different, but played fast enough that it looks like smooth motion. Your sense of self is the same thing. Discrete moments of me played so fast you never notice the gaps. But here's the thing. In a movie, there actually is smooth motion between the frames. In consciousness, there's nothing between the moments, just gaps, silence, nothing. And that nothing, that's what you actually are. Okay, I know what you're thinking. But wait, even if all that's true, there's still me here, thinking about all this. There's still the observer watching all these thoughts and changes happen. This is called the homunculus fallacy, and it's the last barrier between you and the truth. Here's the problem with the observer idea. If there's a you watching your thoughts, who's watching the watcher? You'll say, well, I'm aware of being aware, but then who's aware of that awareness? And who's aware of that? You see where this goes, right? It's an infinite regress, which means the first step was wrong. There is no separate observer. Let me give you a metaphor that'll break this wide open. Imagine 2 mirrors facing each other. Place something between them, doesn't matter what. Now look at the reflection. You see the reflection of the reflection, of the reflection, of the reflection. Infinitely nested, right? Now here's the twist. Remove both mirrors. Remove the object. What you're left with is pure recursion. Pattern reflecting pattern, with no ground level. No thing doing the reflecting, just the reflecting itself. That's consciousness. That's you. You're not the one who observes. You are the very act of observing itself. And here's what's absolutely wild about this. In mathematics, Kurt Gödel proved that any system complex enough to describe itself must contain statements that are true but unprovable from within that system. The system can't fully grasp itself because it is itself. By analogy, human consciousness works the same way. Your brain is a system trying to understand itself using itself. And just like Gödel's theorem predicts, it creates paradoxes. The biggest paradox? The illusion that there's someone separate from the system, observing the system. But there's not. There's just the system looping back on itself, creating the mirage of an observer. You're a strange loop, a self-referential pattern that only exists because it references itself. You're not in the pattern. You are the pattern, convinced it's separate from itself. Let's talk about something you don't often hear, the Buddhist concept of emptiness. And I need you to forget everything you think that word means, because it's not about nothing. It's about something far stranger. Emptiness, shunyata in Sanskrit, means empty of inherent, independent existence. And here's what that actually means. Look around you right now. Pick any object, a chair, a phone, whatever. That object seems solid, right? Self-contained, a thing unto itself. But is it? That chair is made of wood. The wood came from a tree. The tree grew from soil, water, sunlight. The soil is decomposed organic matter. The water evaporated from the ocean. The sunlight is nuclear fusion happening 93 million miles away. So where does the chair begin? Is it the wood? Is it the tree? Is it the star? And it doesn't stop there. You only know it's a chair because of language. Language came from culture. Culture came from history. History came from biology. Biology came from chemistry. Chemistry came from physics. And physics? Physics might depend on consciousness, on observation, on you. So where's the boundary? Where does chair end and not chair begin? Here's the wild part. There is no boundary. Not really. The chair is empty of independent existence. It only exists as a node in an infinite web of interdependence. And here's what no one tells you. The same is true of you. Where do you end and not you begin? At your skin. But we already talked about that. You're constantly exchanging matter with the environment. At your thoughts? But your thoughts are shaped by every conversation you've ever had, every book you've read, every experience you've absorbed. You're not a separate entity. You're a temporary clustering of processes, with no clear boundary, no independent existence, no solid core. You're not in the universe. You are the universe, temporarily pretending to be separate. Here's where it gets truly strange. Right now, notice the space in which your thoughts appear. Don't think about it. That's just another thought. Just notice. Notice how thoughts appear in awareness, like notifications popping up on a phone. The screen itself doesn't generate them. It just allows them to be seen. That's what's happening right now. Thoughts are happening in awareness. But, and here's the key, the awareness doesn't belong to anyone. It's not yours. It's not mine. It's just awareness, being aware. You know what's wild? You've been looking for yourself your entire life, and you've been looking from yourself the whole time. The seeker is the sought. The eye can't see itself. The light that makes seeing possible can't be seen. You're not something that has awareness. You're the awareness itself, mistakenly identified with the contents of awareness. Let me put it another way. You think you're the character in the movie of your life, but you're not the character. You're not even the actor playing the character. You're the screen the movie's projected on. And here's the beautiful part. The screen never gets hurt by what's projected on it. A horror movie plays, and the screen doesn't scream. A love story plays, and the screen doesn't weep. The drama happens, but the screen remains untouched. That's what you are. The untouched, unchanging awareness in which all experience arises and dissolves. Here's where many people stumble. They imagine, if I'm just awareness and there's no real me, then what? Nothing matters. No goals to pursue, no mortgage to pay, no obligations at all. This is where the philosophy stops being abstract and becomes intensely practical. Let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to stop using the word I. I'm not suggesting you pretend you don't exist. I'm not asking you to become some philosophical zombie wandering through life with no preferences or personality. Here's what I'm saying. The I is a useful fiction, like money, like borders, like time zones, real in its effects, but not in its essence. Money isn't actually valuable. We collectively agree to treat it as valuable, and that agreement creates real consequences. Borders don't exist in nature. They're lines we drew on maps that create real nations with real laws. The self is the same. It's a functional fiction that allows you to navigate social reality. Use it. Just don't believe in it. The distinction is everything. Navigate life through the character called you while knowing it's a character. Play the role fully while remembering it's a role. And you know what's amazing? Life becomes more vivid, not less. When there's no you filtering experience through fear and desire, reality hits directly. Colors are brighter, connections deeper, presence total. And here's the shift. If your self is an illusion, so is everyone else's. The boundary between you and other is conceptual, not ultimate, which means hurting another person is like your left hand hurting your right hand. Arbitrary violence within a unified field. And here's what no one teaches you. Compassion isn't a moral obligation when you see this. It's not something you should do because it's good. It's the spontaneous response when the illusion of separation dissolves. You don't have to force yourself to care about others. Care happens naturally when you realize there are no others, just different expressions of the same awareness, looking out through different eyes. Here's the part that'll really mess with your head. Everything I've been telling you, this whole explanation, this whole framework, it's all happening within the strange loop we've been describing. The illusion is becoming aware it's an illusion. The pattern is recognizing its own patternness. And in that recognition, something shifts. You can't unknow this. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You might forget, you might get caught up in the story again. But there's always this background knowing, this little voice that goes, "Oh, right. It's all just happening. There's no one doing it." And even this understanding is just another pattern in the system. There's no final ground to stand on, no ultimate truth to grasp and hold forever. It's strange loops all the way down, and that's not a problem. That's the point. We've traveled far together. Let's come back to where we started. I asked you to notice yourself noticing. Now I'm asking you to notice what remains when the noticer dissolves. This isn't a belief system. You don't have to believe anything I've said. This is something to recognize directly, like noticing you've been breathing all along. The recognition is immediate, or it's not recognition at all. This isn't a state to achieve. You don't become no self. You recognize you never were a self to begin with. It's like someone pointing at the moon and you suddenly seeing it. The moon was always there. The pointing just directed your attention. This isn't nihilism. The absence of self isn't the absence of everything. It's the presence of everything without a separate observer claiming ownership of it. Tomorrow morning, before the story of you fully loads, there's a moment. Just after waking, before thinking begins. In that moment, no one is there yet. Just raw awareness. That's not a special state you need to cultivate. That's the ground of every moment, obscured by the constant commentary of selfhood. For almost 17 minutes, I've been telling you there's no self, but who's the one hearing this right now? The illusion, aware of being an illusion. The character, recognizing it's a character. The strange loop, caught in the act of looping. This is what they call the gateless gate. There's nothing to pass through because there's nowhere to go and no one to go there. You've always been what you're seeking. The search itself is the obstacle. The question is the answer wearing a disguise. So who are you really?